When I hear that somebody has, dealt with trauma in their life and has sought therapy, I often wonder whether they've gotten the right type of therapy because I'm of the opinion that 50%, maybe more, of therapists are not able to help their patients enough to get them to a place where they can lead a really healthy life, even if it took a long time,
Mhm.
that the therapists themselves aren't prepared to do so. So I wonder how you feel about the therapy you've had. How helpful was it? And I'm sure it was varied depending on the therapist, but
Um, yeah, I've had about 12 therapists in total,
uh,
which is kind of a lot.
yeah.
And the thing is, I've probably had two good ones that actually helped me. And a lot of them, as you were saying, they were not prepared to help me. And they, in fact, made my issues a lot worse.
Hmm.
My last therapist I had, it went really bad, and he actually ended up stalking me outside of therapy, and he showed up places I was and sent
Hmm.
me some very interesting text messages. So
That's
he's no
horrible.
longer my therapist.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't great. So I've had a couple good experiences in therapy, but I've also had experiences when they're not equipped for it, and the therapy instead takes me down a much worse trajectory than I was going on.
I have so many questions. Okay. Well, first, by what standard do you judge whether a therapist is good?
Well, first, I try to look at their credentials. So when I call my insurance to see what's going on, they have like a little synopsis, and I look at the things that they target with their clients, like what their specialty is. And so I look at their list and see if I have any of those issues, which or if they're equipped to help my issues. And then I normally go in and I have a first session with them. And if we don't click in the first session, then I say, you know what, this isn't working out.
Hmm.
I don't really think we're going to be a good fit. And then I go towards a different one. Um, it's not based on what their education is, like if they didn't go to Harvard or something. That's not what I care about. I just need them to really understand my issues or help me understand where the root of my issues are.
Do you look for someone that gives you a feeling that they're an authority that you could, you feel like you're learning something that you didn't already know? Because one thing I'm getting from you right off the bat is that you're smart and quick and independent, like you take care of yourself well. I only know you for a few minutes, but that's the sense I'm getting off the bat. So I wonder what it could either be threatening or potentially like relaxing, and exactly what you're looking for to feel that someone could be an authority relative to you. And I wonder
um,
if you look for that.
that's actually a really good question. Um, I haven't really had any therapists that felt like an authority to me.
Hmm.
A lot of them, I feel like, go more alongside me and like listen and then respond, which isn't helpful to me because I'm a super logical person. So, what I'm looking for in a therapist, which I haven't really found, is kind of just someone that really knows their stuff, and then they can say logically, here's where we're at. So this is what you need to do. But instead, a lot of therapists, I feel like, pander to me, and they're like, oh, that must have been a very traumatic experience. That makes sense why you have this, but there's never, oh, it makes sense that you have this trauma. So here are the steps. I've done CBT therapy,
Hmm.
which is cognitive behavioral therapy, which, if you don't know, you know, obviously, but other listeners might not. And that has been more helpful because it brings a solution instead of just telling someone your problems and then shaking their head and saying, you know, yeah, that sounds difficult.
And I think in what you just said, I'm finding a place where we feel really differently because um, forgive me if this is blunt, but I do want this dialogue to be as direct as possible. I don't feel like you can get long-term help from CBT, from cognitive behavior.
Okay.
I feel
Yeah.
only psychodynamic, and that's the point of this conversation, is
Yeah.
that I hold that opinion. Only psychodynamic can heal deep trauma, because I feel like deep trauma is nearly impossible to heal. Almost nobody heals deep trauma. And when I say heal, I don't mean 100%. I just mean really get through it where it's not a part of their day-to-day life, that they're
Hmm.
dealing with their trauma. This has been my experience in my life, and I'm only one person, so I could be wrong, but I do hold this conviction. So I'm interested in, I don't know, how do you react to that?
Well, CBT and therapy, regular therapy, it has not healed my trauma. I still got issues. I still have PTSD battling on a daily basis.
Hmm.
So, maybe I haven't been going long enough. I mean, 6 years is a decent amount of time, but, maybe it hasn't been long enough. But that hasn't helped me. And I've done CBT, which I totally agree that CBT isn't a solution. To me, CBT is tools that you can use in the moment. It doesn't make it go away.
Right.
It just makes it more manageable,
Mm-hmm.
That's what I found. I don't know.
No, that's my understanding too.
Yeah.
Why I say that's a good thing to have if you've done talk therapy that goes deeper into the psyche, and you are just dealing with an addiction or a really bad relationship that you're getting over or something. Then I can understand it being a short span of time type of solution. So it's like I'm not trying to lower its value.
Oh, yeah. No.
But
yes, it's not long term though. I agree with that 100%. I do think it's helpful in the moment, but that's I mean, that's what I use it for. I don't know if those therapists believe that it's going to be long term, but I was taught that it's something that you put in your tool belt of help. So when you're in a grocery store and you have like a PTSD flashback or something, then you can use what you've learned in that and then that apply.
That completely makes sense to me. But hearing about that, I almost feel like it hurts me to know that most people may be like, well, that's what I need. I need a way to deal with those flashbacks, which is like saying I need a way to deal with the symptoms and not the disease. And and I think that's a reasonable metaphor that psychodynamic therapy with a talented therapist, which I don't know if it's 20% or 10% are, but I've tried out a lot of therapists and had this sense, because I'm a bit of a tough patient in that I'm perfectly willing to feel that I know more than they do about certain things just from my life experience. Obviously, I don't have their training, but I can sense if they're trying to get something out of the therapy and it's not as much a selfless thing where they're really there to benefit the patient. There's a lot of therapists that, so the first thing that I asked, just kind of going back to how you choose a therapist, what you were talking about before, is I say, tell me about your own therapy. And if they say they haven't been to their own therapy, then the conversation's over. And the reason for that is because I believe almost every person is traumatized in some way, some smaller than others. But, we've had as humans, we've had some brutal pasts. And if you think about where, like my grandparents were, or maybe your great grandparents, and World War II, World War I, and how scarce things were. I mean, there's just so much trauma out there. So I always look to see, how long did you go to therapy? Did you do psychodynamic therapy? Or did you just learn things from a book and then go through some clinical, training or whatever you're required to do and then go out and practice? Because if that's the case, I think that you need your own therapy for, I don't know, at least like 4 or 5 years to qualify with me as a therapist that could really help me.
I think that's I'm going to start asking future therapists that now. I haven't done that, but I think I'm going to ask them, have you been to therapy? Probably the most helpful therapist I've had. She didn't quote unquote fix me, but she did help me. She had a lot of the same issues I had, and she shared that with me. And she said, oh, I had these issues and this is what helped me. And I'm like, okay, wait, okay, you've been around the block. You get this, you know what I'm feeling. You're not just saying, well, the textbook says that this is a symptom of that. So that was helpful, but she didn't fix. But I personally don't think therapy can fix you.
Tell me more about that.